It's got cake in it. I've had some cake, listener, and it's in superbly. And Ed the Duck Bowl. You can't really see that. You remember Ed the Duck? He released a single.
Did he?
Yeah, I've got it on picture disc vinyl. That must be worth millions of pounds these days. Because vinyl's sexy.
Ducking and driving. Ha ha.
Is that what Sam Burgess did? No. Welcome to the programme.
It was a summer cake. A cake for summer.
Black currants and honey. Like, I mean, that wasn't from Aldi, was it? No, that was from Marks
It's
and Spencer.
almost like... No, it's not. It's almost like strawberries and cream for Wimbledon, except
that's next week. Yeah,
Is
tennis in Mallorca this week, and yeah, and that's what I do now. Just outside. Why am I not there? Why am I not covering it for the Redhouse? Got other things to do. We've already had a message from Tim. Why you're never out of crisis? I mean, we could just replay that bit from last week because everything we said last week, we can just repeat again. I think Steve did, didn't he? Repeat it on Saturday afternoon ahead of their game against Huddersfield and how prescient we were. But there you go. It's 4020 live. 23rd of June. It's nearly July. Summer's here. Oh, no, summer's finished now, isn't it? Because summer solstice has gone.
Yep.
The Druids have been going around at Stonehenge.
Do you know there's a pagan site near Leeds?
Is there? Is it Headingley?
No, it's 2 miles out of Leeds on the Leeds-Liverpool Canal.
Has it not got any stones or anything?
It's got stones. It's like a small version of Stonehenge.
Is that in that book downstairs, 101 Things to Do in Leeds?
No, we found it on a walk by accident yesterday. From
right.
Throit's Watermill back into the centre of Leeds.
So were there any Druids there?
Not while we were there, but amazing what you find.
If you're Druid, let us know.
And a wall with 4 Leeds personalities on it.
Liz Dawn?
No, Nicola Adams.
Oh, yeah.
Alan Bennett.
Yep.
Sue Ryder.
Yep.
John Craven.
John Craven, off Newsround. So this was after.
Who knew?
These were the 4 people. This was after, long after the other famous people from Leeds.
Presumably John was painted over something. No, who knew? Who knew?
Oh dear. Now Martin Campbell's on holiday. What am I going to listen to while he's not doing podcasts? This is the thing.
Well, did you listen to his last one?
Yes. So,
saying nothing.
No.
Shame though.
It is. Happy birthday, Abigail, who'll be watching, and if she isn't,
maybe that's why we had the cake.
Yeah, she'll cut it out anyway and put it on social media.
We had cake for Abigail's birthday.
She went to watch St Helens Women on Saturday, who beat Warrington, and she had a photo taken with all the players. Apart from Amy Hardcastle, who's broken her leg. Get well soon, Amy.
Oh,
and then she went to see York yesterday against Huddersfield,
which sounded like a great game.
And York won that as well,
but only in the last minute.
She lost Savannah Andrade. Now, it's all right for her to go as a now 11-year-old and get selfies with the players after games, but I'm not allowed to.
No, you're not.
That's not.
No. Well, you could.
Well, I can't because it's in the guidelines for the media that we're not allowed to get selfies and autographs and stuff.
Right. Okay.
So next time you see anyone doing that,
what about club chairman getting selfies?
Well,
no. Let's not peak too
do we start with him or do we start? Well, let's kind of work towards that because what happened last week?
What's there to say anyway?
Well, there isn't much to say, is there? It's like the I think I put this on the description for the programme, like when they used to have video cameras in shop windows, which is there's a reference for the young people.
Harry Worth.
Yeah, a bit like that, isn't it? Yeah, but you know, or the people. There's some terrible news. Imagine the following scenario, as Edward would say, that there's some terrible news event happened in the world. I mean, I know this is a stretch for you, isn't it? And there's someone there with the microphone going blah 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 blah, and then there's some Burke behind them going like that. Imagine that.
Which went down well on the podcast.
Yeah. Oh God, it's all about Warrington. Andrew says, "Evening all." Oh, I'm gonna. This is right. I'm gonna ask Andrew's question because I don't know the answer because I don't know any. Well, I do know things, but I can't tell you those things.
Okay.
And Phil might know things because he knows people. Evening all.
Good evening, Andrew.
Oh, and evening, Carson as well. Evening all, says Andrew. Is there a big meeting with all the clubs later this week? Hopefully the Championship and League One will become a West and East League eventually. Is there? Not another one.
The big meeting's in July, not...
It's not another one in Batley where they're getting...
There may be a meeting of clubs. One of the proposals that will be discussed, that the strategic review will bring to the table, will be what happens to the Championship and League One. And it may well be that proposal, as I think reported in a certain monthly magazine, would be the amalgamation of the two divisions and them split regionally with, obviously, depending on who was in Super League at the time, some regional variation for where the Midlands might go and where Newcastle might go. London could be in Super League if it's a 14 teams. It's all, yes, we hear the talk that is a distinct possibility, which will guarantee a lot of local derbies, which is what those teams want to financially make them viable.
So Andrew, Dewsbury Batley might be back on, so that's good. 5 times a year. Yeah. The Let's Who Survives League, says Carsten, in terms of what? Well, yeah, I mean, we haven't got any clubs in trouble apart from Salford, then, have we? Newcastle appear to be on a more firmer footing. Now they're part of Penrith.
The big news story, I think, bigger than people behaving in a manner that they probably shouldn't in the position that they hold, is the fact that York have effectively taken over the running of Newcastle. So Graham Steadman is in as head coach of Newcastle. Chris Thorman is now an assistant coach at York. But the pathways are being paid for by Penrith Panthers. In the same way that the other big news story of the week was the agreement for Hull Kingston Rovers and North Queensland to work together, a lot of which will be around pathways. And I think we heard from Gary Hetherington originally when he was talking about potential NRL investment in his new venture in London, that he wanted, we believe it's the Dolphins, he also spoke to Canterbury as well, to pay for the pathway structure in London. And I think when people say, are the NRL still interested in buying Super League? I think this is their toes in the water. And I think it's a guarantee that if you come up with some gems here, they get the opportunity to play there. They've got some junior players that they need to place in a better competition and see if they can live on the other side of the world and enhance themselves in life as well as in their rugby education, and they could well be coming over here, which I think is a real indication that there is cooperation between the two hemispheres, which is great. That is a first step to, if this goes well, then there may be more to it than we're currently seeing.
So Chris Thorman might be a trailblazer for people from the North East playing in the NRL.
Well, I think they've probably said, if you're getting him involved, we're in Penrith, that's down the road from Parramatta. Chris Thorman played for Parramatta. If he's the kind of talent that you can unearth, we're interested.
Apparently all the people in Parramatta love Paige Travis, according to social media, which is not a surprise.
They haven't kicked off yet, have they? No, she would be something a little bit different. 2 weeks that it kicks off, and every NRLW game is on Sky.
I think they've got Elsie Albert as well. I forgot about her.
Right.
And she's obviously...
fun.
Great. So we'll see how they go. Looking forward to it already, says Andrew. This is Dewsbury Batley, by the way. Although we will be meeting the old enemy on Boxing Day soon, will be Christmas. It will soon be Christmas. Depressing as that thought is. Yeah, well, it's great. Play them on Boxing Day, play them on Easter Friday, Good Friday.
Draw them in the Challenge Cup.
Yeah, 1895 Cup.
1895
whatever
Cup.
form that takes. If you've got any ideas for what we can do with the 1895 Cup.
Well, again, the story emerging that as part of all this strategic review and the cost of hiring Wembley, and that they're going to move the 1895 Cup away. I mean, they might, but to me that would be such a short-term move that the whole idea it works is because it's at Wembley for the fans and the players. We've said this numerous occasions. 6 different winners on 6 different occasions. It's giving clubs that don't get the opportunity to play at Wembley the chance to have a big day out. What we need to do is not bin it or move it, but find a way of enhancing it.
And it's not going to get massive amounts of support anyway, unless big teams with big support get there. So it's the luck of the draw. If the final happened to be Newcastle versus, who can I not upset by saying they've got a small support? I don't know, but
yeah, but what you want is the opportunity for an Oldham and a Swinton to get to Wembley for the first time in the club's history.
It's not going to happen any other way.
So Wembley, we've had these debates for however long about we need to move the Challenge Cup final away from Wembley because there are other venues and it only gets 60 to 65,000. No. If it's not at Wembley, it doesn't even get the kudos that it's got at the moment. When we speak to Paul Cook people, who won his one and only Challenge Cup final in Cardiff, and it still rankles him that he didn't win it at Wembley, because Wembley is the spiritual home of the Challenge Cup final. And to already be saying, well, we can move the 1895 Cup back to Blackpool or whatever, it's not the same. It has to be a chance for clubs who historically have had a real input and a presence in the game to play on the biggest stage.
I've forgotten to start the recording on the thing, but that doesn't matter. It just means it'll be later on Facebook tomorrow. Apparently we're on the radio. Steve's. I don't know what we've done wrong, but it's working for Steve now anyway, so that's the good news. But it's like the people who say, "Oh, we should move the women's final away from Wembley because no one watches it." Well, yeah, you don't get it, do you?
And these things don't change overnight.
And if we move the 1895 Cup final from Wembley to wherever, you've got to pay for that ground and all the branding and everything, and getting the chief executive of the Rugby Football League there to shake hands.
That would be a really poor decision.
Shown on. Oh, by the way, while I remember this, and I should have said this later, but I'll say it now. So there's only one game in the Men's Super League on Sunday, which is St Helens versus Salford, a big game that we're all looking forward to.
The big game that they played 2 weeks ago.
Can't wait for it. That lad might score another try and we can all get excited. Oh, look, Salford, they've scored a try.
There's no game on Thursday.
No, there's no game on Thursday. But
3 games on Friday.
But also on Sunday, St Helens women versus Wigan women, or the other way round rather, at Robin Park.
Which is on the Sportsman.
Which is great. Kicks off at 2. Saints men kick off at 3. Do we have no general idea of how stupid that is?
Does it kick off at 2?
It does, I believe.
Have I seen it on the Sportsman at 12?
Someone told me earlier today too.
I don't know. They would know.
Well, they would
better
know.
than I.
They would know. Let me check this now, because otherwise I'm going to look like a fool.
But I think it's only just been announced it's going to be on the Sportsman.
2 o'clock kickoff.
Oh, brilliant. How wonderfully self-defeating that is.
And the other games of the Women's Super League on Sunday kick off at 12. So,
except the one on Friday, which is a double head.
I thought Wigan had moved into a new exciting stadium, so why are they playing at Robin Park?
I think that's just for training at Oral.
Right. I can't get my head around all these things. I should read the news and stuff, shouldn't I? Speaking of, everyone got very excited last week that Mark Aston didn't go through with his appeal for his ban, which, when we go back in time, the incident is playing a player you weren't supposed to play, and nothing's changed on that. And isn't the whole problem with the whole process and procedure that one of the key people involved in this at the Rugby Football League was then not at the Rugby Football League? Yeah.
I think also there's the Aston defence of his actions is that they wanted to introduce new evidence, but procedurally they couldn't, and whether that's right or wrong, whether the punishment fitted the crime, whether that's right or wrong. It just seems to be a shame that a day before it was due to go to arbitration, for cost reasons, it didn't go ahead. I mean, that can't have been decided a day before. The costs would have mounted anyway. So nobody wins in that situation.
No, well, the Rugby Football League can't come out and say anything. So
they've damned Mark Aston for his actions.
They've already had their thing, but then his side of things can go on podcast and say whatever they want to say and go unchallenged, because the RFL can't really say anything other than they've already said.
There are just no winners.
No.
I know there's a fans forum at Sheffield on Thursday where I'm sure it will be brought up.
Over and over again, probably. Thomas says, let's ignore the fact that Warrington Club is all wrong. More bothered about ice cream or saying Huddersfield have no fans. Why are women in Super League? It's embarrassing and not helping anyone. Well, they earned their place there. We'll get on to Warrington. We'll get on to Warrington.
I'd rather get on to Huddersfield. This week, I know we're going to sort of do as we normally do and go through the games. It's been a great weekend for Super League. So yes, some teams won, some teams lost. There are some stories attached to that. But I don't think too many people have got all their predictions right this week.
No,
and that's got to be good for the competition.
I got 4 out of 6.
I think you'll have done better than most.
I tipped all the away teams this week. Sadly, that meant Leeds and Wakefield let me down.
But I think you would have got more than most.
Possibly. I was very keen on Huddersfield. I mean, I didn't see any reason to go against them. Hull KR, no.
But I just thought, as a competition, sort of, just after the halfway point, needs a bit of a boost, and so now things aren't as cut and dried as we think. Some are, but there's intrigue in enough of the fixtures and some upsets in this round to say, the fixtures already look more exciting next week because of what's happened this week. So a good round for Super League. And
the strategic review's been delayed. Is that
well?
So we were wrong on this programme by saying they'd already written it. So
it won't be delayed. It will announce some structural proposals for the constitution of the RFL board, who can sit on it, what mandate they've got then to deliver, and they may well be one or two things about the structure for 2025, because they've got that. You can't announce in December that, oh, by the way, we're going to 14 teams and regional divisions below that, or that kind of thing will have to be proposed in July. But from what Chris Radlinski is saying, there does seem to be general agreement about the direction of travel, even though all of the details may not be inked in.
Salford and Hunslet. What?
Yes, they don't like each other at the moment.
I don't know how good this player is, because I've never seen him play.
I've seen him play once, I think.
I always tend to think that when these things happen, there's a famous case in the 2000s, I think, involving Leeds United. You may have heard of them, football club. Born out of the ashes of one that was slightly corrupt. But they had...
It was 1919, to be fair.
It was a while ago. They had 2 young players who were poached by Chelsea. Chelsea aren't going to sue me, it's all right. Roman Abramovich isn't listening, is he? And Leeds kicked off about this, and they got a lot of money from Chelsea in the end. I don't think Hunslet are going to get any money from Salford, especially not after the HMRC have called.
Did they pay it to Ken?
Probably,
the thought of Chelsea paying Ken, he'd have loved that.
Yeah.
He'd have loved that.
And of course, these 2 players went on to absolutely sod all in their careers. And I hope this isn't the case for this lad here, but we've got all this hassle about a player who's playing for a team at the bottom of the championship.
A young Aussie.
Who... Why are Salford allowed to sign players? I thought they were in special measures. Why are Salford allowed to sign players?
They're taking him on trial, I think. But again, it's purely sounds like miscommunication. That they thought that they were free to negotiate through his agent. Hunslet have said the first thing we knew about it was when we were told he was leaving. We don't want to deny him the chance. We just think we deserve a fee. Well, again, they haven't had him for that long themselves, so quite what that fee would be. He's mid-20s, I think, come over from Australia. Well, so again, clearly he hasn't come through the Hunslet Academy system.
So then again, and this goes to the crux of everything. Why are Hunslet signing mid-20-year-old players from the Queensland Cup or whatever, New South Wales Cup? What a waste of money that is.
What, like Castleford have just done?
Yeah, when we see that when we talk about, Hunslet's got a great reputation for developing young talent in the area, not just.
But if we go to 14 teams and change the quota system,
we need more of these players.
There'll be more of them.
It's all IMG's fault. So So that's not going to.
We may be renegotiating with them as part of the strategic review.
I look forward to more emails from Hunslet anyway over the next few days telling me what's going on there, because I don't think anyone knows. I went to Edinburgh on Saturday.
You did?
I actually went. I was there
On the team bus.
on the team bus.
Stopped at Washington services.
Which is dreadful on the way up and dreadful on the way down. So hungry were the Leeds Rhinos. This is, what goes on toe stays on toe. But
Yeah, no, I think you can.
KFC ran out of chicken. That's how much chicken they eat.
So did they blank out the sea? Was it just chaos when you got there on the way back?
Well, on the Aussie Rugby League coverage, when it says FLG, no.
What else
NFC.
could they offer you if the chicken was off?
NFC.
It's not exactly Kentucky Fried Fish,
No,
is it? Or
no.
Kentucky Fried Quiche.
There were some jokes, but we can't, because they're illegal.
So what did these hungry athletes? Who
I'm not sure they
played
got
for-
something, maybe some rice or something. Cause the rice bowls for the bourgeois.
Not at Washington, I wouldn't have thought.
No, not coming back from Edinburgh. Edinburgh 6, 114 Leeds. They were quite good, but then they are the champions, and Edinburgh are new.
And I think
11 tries from Josh Butler, who apparently watches the programme. So hello, Josh. He's won the World Cup. What did he win? Young Player of the Year, Wheel of Steel. I can't remember one of those. Yeah, but this will be the career highlight being mentioned on the Rugby League's #1 podcast in Sierra Leone.
is there nowhere that you can hide from us? I think the two things about that result is, firstly, it's Edinburgh's bow in the senior competition, and they won't be at all surprised that it was a heavy beating on their introduction, but their reserves won, which is great.
Which was good, yeah.
And Leeds had a point to prove, because I think they felt they let themselves down in the Challenge Cup semi-final. No discredit to London whatsoever, who fought to the last and deserved to get there, but I think they felt that was an opportunity lost. So you would have thought they wanted to go out strong and make a name for themselves. I think they're not going to have Tom Halliwell for probably all of this season, so that's a decent result, for a team that doesn't have one of their star players. The big talking point from the game, well, two big talking points from the game. Piped in.
Yes, there was bagpipes.
By a bagpipe.
Which, when I put together my video, you'll see the bagpipe, but that was good.
And both teams captained by a woman.
Yes, which I didn't ask either of the captains. Did ask the coach.
Great though.
Yeah.
I don't think that's ever happened before in wheelchair rugby league.
So when I ask people in wheelchair rugby league, not from like usual rugby league places, how do you get involved? I don't mean why are you in a wheelchair. I mean, how did you end up playing rugby league? Because it's alien in Scotland. Olivia Fulton, the captain of Edinburgh, came from lacrosse.
Brilliant.
Which is also violent. So
Brilliant.
It's well in, and Edinburgh scored. So that's the.
I think the important thing is that they're in Super League and they'll use it to build the game in Scotland. And Martin Gill is the coach, and he was at Leeds when I think they first came into Super League. They were getting beat by 100 points, and they're quite good now.
And the scores are weird, aren't they? Because it is so easy to not easy.
You
can
score
change
points
very quickly.
You can rack up points. But as an event, did you enjoy it?
Yeah, because it was somewhere different. In University of Edinburgh Hall, they had banners up for all the former Blues and stuff. Hare and Hounds, parkour. These are sports apparently. I think Hare and Hounds.
Hare and Hounds is hunting. Yeah, I'm not keen on
but
that.
But they put that because it seems more. I mean, they put rugby. They put rugby, which I understand is some foreign game. We don't play that one.
Was there any mention of grouse?
There was a raffle which I didn't win.
Was it a meat raffle?
No, there was a signed ball and lots of alcohol.
Okay.
That
confirms the stereotype about the Scottish.
And afterwards, someone came around with a basket full of Scottish products like Tunnet's caramel
Hooray!
wafers. So I had a free caramel wafer. So obviously, as a client journalist, I've been bought by Edinburgh thanks to a Tunnet's caramel wafer. So I go back. But we'll see them when they're down here as well. And as you say,
everybody has to start somewhere.
And it's better to have. We talk about it with the Women's Super League and say, well, why aren't Cardiff in there? Why aren't London in there? Because Warrington being in there, for example, is doing no one any good. Whereas if Cardiff or London were, at least it's spreading the game somewhat. And the BBC Wales might tweet about it all the time, like they do with everything else that's Welsh, especially involving Wrexham. Wigan beat Sheffield 8 points to 4. again, as you'd expect,
Sheffield's
new team in the competition.
Yeah,
but they've got loads of players coming through, so that's also good.
Won't do them any harm either.
But the big one, the repeat of the Challenge Cup final from the week before, Halifax 40, London 40, Halifax 40 to get it.
Sounded like a great game.
Yeah, it did. So
and again, I think that's I don't know who went from Halifax if it was a full strength team, but I suspect it probably was. That shows great resilience again from London to turn a cup final defeat around to get a draw in first round of Super League.
I don't know who's playing this week, but
I think it's Leeds and Wigan.
I think that's next. I've got it on my calendar because I've put it down there.
Is it next week?
No, because that's the women's nines. It's on the 12th. Because the day before, Leeds play St Helens in a repeat of
the game we saw on Friday.
So I'm going to spend the whole weekend in Leeds.
Cake's good though.
Yeah, the cake's good. But it's only free cake at the Rugby. That's the big question. So if you get a chance to go see a game, go see, because invariably it's free to get in, and you can just put some money behind the raffle.
You can't do anything more than admire the people who play wheelchair rugby league.
Just really, I think Jodie Boyd-Ward's finger came out and she had to
of course it
put it back in. Her dad put it back in for her, and then they came back out again. She taped it up, and then
Did she frighten you?
Well, she always frightens me.
Yeah.
But the adrenaline was wearing off as she was speaking to me. I thought I'd better let her go. So that was good. Thomas on Warrington. They're still trying to free Wolfie. Has anything happened with that, or was that just complete nonsense? Because that's what I'm falling on the side of.
I think, again, it didn't have any relation to their performance, but the ice cream gate was, even if Huddersfield were in on it, it just seemed not only petty, but when the result turned out the way it did, you just go, what are you doing?
They've got no fans, Huddersfield. Imagine that. Huddersfield, speaking of, their women almost won against York.
Tremendous performance, because they were, was it
18-4 down at half time.
Yeah.
20 points to 24 in favour of York at the end of that game. So
with a
late try from Sinead Peach, a couple of tries from Amelia Brown, England's Amelia Brown.
She's a talent.
So Huddersfield.
That's a much improved performance from Huddersfield.
Yeah. The league table, which of course never lies, apart from it does because Leeds have won 2 games you'd expect them to win, but everyone said, oh, they're rubbish now because they lost the first 2, didn't they? But Warrington at bottom, but Leigh, Huddersfield and Barrow you'd expect might take points off each other. Leeds beating Barrow 66-4 at the home of Rugby League West Park.
Ebony Stead, hat-trick for the
4
second
tries.
week running.
Jess Sharp made her debut
She did.
from York.
Off the bench.
St Helens 86, Warrington 0. Amy Hardcastle managed to score before breaking her leg. Probably could have scored with a broken leg.
The way Warrington are playing, probably after she'd broken.
Again, this is not a criticism of Warrington's players.
No.
We just have to point that out, just in case people take it the wrong way. Because obviously, I've said things about women's teams before, and they've been taken the wrong way and shared in WhatsApp groups. Danny McGifford scored a hat-trick, as did Jodie Cunningham off the telly. They've got to stop using
because on Friday night she was.
She tipped to Leeds win.
Did she?
Yeah.
I don't know.
They've got to stop using her on Saints games because she can't come on and go, we're rubbish. Leeds are going to win, can she? I mean, she didn't say that, obviously. Never mind. Wigan 60, Leigh 6. So Leigh, after all the hype in the first couple of weeks, look at Leigh, they're flying high.
Yeah, and the way Wigan are playing at the moment, that's not. I think the first half. Did Leigh score in the first half? No, the start of the second half. Yeah. So again, that shows a little bit.
And again,
they've just been promoted. They're getting used to the intensity of these games week on week. That's the first game they played against a team that would be called top 4.
Yeah. So this weekend when Barrow play Huddersfield, that's an interesting game.
Yeah.
Because Huddersfield have got to go to Barrow. Warrington York, less interesting. Because even York in flux at the minute, you'd say does the win by about 70 points. Wigan Saints, and then on Friday, Leeds Leigh, 5:15. I've got to get there early. 5:15.
Double header, women and then men. It's funny that teams
Yeah.
putting fixtures together to make it more exciting for the public.
It's clever, isn't it? Who would be these people?
How did they do it?
I don't know, but well done to them. So we'll see what happens in those games this week. And as mentioned, Wigan Saints is on the Sportsman, but stupid scheduling. That's got to be.
Don't
It's got to be on the
mention
clubs. It's got to be on the clubs.
Don't mention scheduling.
League One, which was
Big
excellent.
result in League One.
The one involving the Midlands Hurricanes and the Gould Vikings.
Yep.
13-12 to the Vikings. Field goal in the 76th minute.
And a crowd of 962.
920. Close.
Right.
Wigan's women had 900 and odd as well.
But a record crowd for Midlands.
Yeah. Record for Wigan as a standalone fixture. And again, you look at where Castleford were, with crowds around the 1,000 mark. Yeah, Midlands 12, Gould 13. So big win.
Great result for Scott Taylor's men.
Dewsbury, they won 28-14 against Whitehaven.
Whitehaven, who haven't played for a month. Talking a ridiculous fixture schedule.
So how does that work?
I have no idea. Well, presumably they had to play Cornwall at some point,
yes.
But a month is ridiculous.
Yeah. I did read Truro getting a new stadium, so that's exciting for them.
Oh, okay. Well, there's going to be a new one at Workington, isn't there?
Oh, yeah, apparently, yeah. I've seen drawings and everything.
Which is great.
They won 56-0 against Newcastle. In front of a crowd of no one.
With Graham Stedman in charge for the
York
first time.
legend Graham Stedman. And Swinton 30, Keighley 22. So they couldn't back up their dramatic win last week against
But that was
Rochdale
close all the way.
Hornets.
So I saw the scores coming in and nothing between the teams. So an improved Keighley performance.
So North Wales, after a week off, still top of the table, with a game in hand, leading by 3 points. So,
but nothing much between.
Now you've got Workington and Midlands on 15, Swinton on 14, Dewsbury on 13, Rochdale 10, Whitehaven 9, Gould 8, Keighley 4, Newcastle 9. In the Championship.
In the likely last ever League One.
What's going to happen to the League One trophy?
Well, what's going to happen to the eights? It's going to be superfluous before we even have it.
If only we'd had a strategic review before we had decided to change it.
If only we didn't have a strategic review reporting halfway through a season.
What was wrong with the last board anyway? Has anyone ever have they ever told us that?
No, I think it was too
independent,
too diverse, and didn't have enough people involved who had rugby league pedigree.
Did they get rid of James because he was too diverse?
Yeah, and he had rugby league pedigree. He sends his apologies. He's got house viewings again.
Well, it's busy month, mate.
Any of our listeners, they are applying. They want some. I think there's a post that's out there if you want to join.
Oh right.
The estate agency that is breaking down all doors in Gunmuscle.
For Mr. Child.
Yeah.
It's his special month. I wonder if he's busy.
Apply.
It was Pride in Edinburgh on Saturday.
Was it?
Yeah, but we missed it because we were trying to get to the rugby. I don't know if they had anyone famous on it. I assume so.
Ian McKellen.
He's famous.
Sir Ian McKellen.
Sir Ian McKellen.
He's Scottish as well.
Is he?
I think so.
I am loving the complete and utter mythology and legend and stuff which the BBC are pushing down my throat this week about the Lions tour.
Is it on?
For which next Wednesday's game, then the Lions play against some losers, is going to be completely overshadowed by two states playing some rugby league games. So it's quite funny.
And Wimbledon.
Will the new conference competition be called the After Eights? Says Tim. That's clever, isn't it? That's
nice.
clever.
I like it.
Clever. That's our audience for you. On Friday,
Very good.
There were two games in the Championship for some reason, which I'm not quite sure why. Bradford beat Batley 32-6 in a battle of the BB versus BB. So well done to Bradford. 3,000 there watching that one. Featherstone
Batley
Rovers.
still without a coach.
Oh yes, that was after last week's programme, wasn't it? Yeah, that was the news we missed last week. Who's going to go there then? I don't know. Who's not got a job at the minute? Who's had a job recently? Because that's how it usually works. James Ford. There you go. Featherstone 32, Halifax 16. Again, he played in front of a crowd of not given.
3 late tries, I think, for Featherstone.
I saw this Gareth Gale lad did a dive in the corner as if he was Tom Johnstone. But he was.
Was he playing at loose forward, or has he gone back on the wing?
I think he was on the wing. I've got to be nice about Wakefield now because he signed a contract now. They did the picture with him signing a contract. My nephew, it's like.
Oh, brilliant! How old is he?
14, I think.
Brilliant. So it's scholarship.
Yeah. in signing the contract.
Fantastic.
I've not asked him yet what's on the contract.
Oh, fantastic.
What,
So as many marshmallows as you can eat.
Get some free kit. Get it on eBay.
Swag.
Hunslet 0, Barrow 58. And they need that lad from Australia.
Not a great result for Hunslet, I have to say. I know Barrow have proved this season that they've been a difficult team to beat. They've been up in the top 4 for part of the season. But that's a thrashing.
T. Ritson with a hat-trick on Jules Reg from St Helens.
I don't think he'll be going back there.
No, it does not like it, does it? Did Connie play for Bradford this week?
Yes, I think he did.
I'll go through the paper now to find out. Well, actually, because you just said he did. So. Wonga. Sheffield 12, Doncaster 26. The first time Doncaster have done the double over Sheffield in 25 years or something. I'm sure they tweeted about that. And I'm sure Carl Hall retweeted it. So, well done, the Dons.
Yeah.
But Sheffield, it's... Until they shake off the shadow of everything else, they can't... They're in flux. They can't move forward.
That's why the fans forum should be interested on Thursday. I'll report back.
Toulouse 34, Oldham 14.
Toulouse just pretty remorseless at the moment. Is that 8 on the trot that they've won?
And they are 2 points clear at the top over Bradford. And in third, a resurgent 6 in a row, York Knights.
Well, 8 in a row if you include the cup.
8 in a row, York Knights, 36-18 away at Widnes, who were leading at half-time, and they kept them at 0 in the second half. Another player with a hat-trick, Ben Jones Bishop. Too many Joneses. And it's because there's a Jones Bishop and a Buchanan, so it's confusing.
Jones Bishop Buchanan.
Yeah.
And they're all related somehow.
So well done to York and Mark Applegarth's
Form
men.
team.
Yeah. I mean, there's no point talking about the top end of the championship without knowing what's going to happen at the bottom end of Super League next year. Or this year.
Mm-hmm.
Or whenever things change. There's not much to say about Castleford versus Hull Kingston Rovers, is there? Because Hull Kingston Rovers won 48 points to 0 in a result that was wholly expected.
The danger with all the games this week is that we're going to talk too much about the teams that lost and not pay enough credit to the teams that won. So in this particular game, I think you can do nothing but praise Hull KR, who've come off winning a Challenge Cup, scored 68 and 48 points. Most teams who come off a Challenge Cup have a dip at some point. But because the squad is so deep and because the way that they're playing is almost ingrained in whoever is playing in that team at the moment, and as yet Willie Peters hasn't made many changes to his team, they're so hard to break down. So that is, let's put that to one side. Hull KR, eternal credit.
And after Wembley, the 6 teams that played there, because I don't know what happened, I don't know how the schools have done since, but Hull KR have won both their games. Featherstone Rovers have won both their games. York Knights have won both their games. St Helens Women have won both their games. Wigan Women have won both their games.
Yep.
We'll get on to them in a bit.
Castleford, I was disappointed with, because on both occasions that teams have played Hull KR post Wembley, you think the first 10 minutes are going to be pretty much crucial. That if you can put a physical stamp on the game, if you can put Hull KR under pressure with where you play the game, you'll see what they've got. And the likelihood is, because of the manner in which they've won both of those games, they would have had enough. But unless you put them under pressure, you're not going to know that. So Cass coming off a win and some positive talk about we think we may have turned the corner, or we want to build on the back of that result. I thought that was a pretty poor performance. And the bizarre thing, apart from the fact that they can't seem to put 2 results together, which is why they are where they are in the table, is that it looked to me, watching it on the telly, admittedly, that almost all of the main stand emptied at half-time. That's got to be a worrying factor.
And they've signed someone who you mentioned earlier. I've not heard of him. But...
Joe Stimson. Yeah, he played for the Gold Coast. Yeah. He's played 100 and odd times in the NR, 115, I think. But they've signed him age 28 from Brisbane Tigers. So they obviously think he's better than perhaps some of the imports they've had. Obviously, they went down the road of going to Papua New Guinea for most of their
Well, they had that special shirt and now they're getting rid of them all.
They obviously think that, with his experience in the NRL, he is a better bet. But jury out.
Is he a Chris Chester side? Is he Chris Chester
I think
side
so.
of the
I
side?
think this is the start of we need to revamp the squad, and we think that bringing that guy in with the research and the due diligence that we've done is better than some of what we've got.
I like how the comments come in and we read them, and it's like Ian says understatement there, Phil, and I'm trying to work out which bit it was about.
It could be anything.
It could be anything.
Could be anything.
It could be anything we said in the last 40 minutes. Could have been about Hull, KR and Castleford in this game. But Hull, Kingston Rovers, as you say, they're really good. They've only lost once all season. They are 4 points clear at the top of the table.
They're in the driving seat now for the League Leader Shield.
They play Wakefield this week.
And they play Wigan, but there's only one game now between Wigan and Hull KR. If Hull KR win all of their games, but even drop that Wigan game, they'd still be top of the league. So
hopefully Daryl Powell is listening to the podcast and says, go out them for the first 10 minutes, lads, and they don't like it up them.
Well, we don't know, do we? Because post Wembley, nobody has gone on.
Which is reminding me, did you see the the Papua New Guinea NRL team?
I do.
Did you see the post of one of their potential names? No.
Because I think they're announcing the board tomorrow, I think, which will then lead to the coach being announced.
It's the PNG Angels, but there's a bit in the middle, which I'm not going to say, because they don't realise in Australia that here the term they've put in the middle is a bit offensive.
Right. Don't say it.
No, I'm not going to say it.
Write it down.
It's something that was
It's not
said.
Street Angels, then.
No, it's something that Corporal Jones said on Dad's Army, which is why I remembered when I said
Right.
they don't like it up 'em.
Okay.
So it's a term of endearment apparently, but it's not here. So
Right.
But it's a different country.
Somebody needs to do some work on that marketing.
It's a different country, but
Is that like Leigh City Shark?
why City? Were Salford City Roosters at that point, or were they just eights, weren't they?
Yeah.
When did they become Sydney? Was that after the? I should read Steve's book again. It'll be in there. You can buy Steve's book from bookshops.
We've got some.
Can you explain that for a foreigner, please? What the name? No, Carson, I can't. No. I'm not going to say it. I mean, it could be worse, but
Not much.
Not by much. No. So yeah, it's Hull KR won. Well done to them. They
were remorseless. They played really well, and Danny Richardson going out on loan to Salford, it would appear.
Yeah.
Because they have riches.
Big fan of clouds, Danny Richardson, and chemtrails. St Helens 18, Leeds Rhinos 4. Saints are back. Leeds are rubbish again now, so that's exciting.
Okay, fair enough.
That's the move on. Right, Saturday. No,
I again, Leeds was. I think the issue for them was the players that have played really well for them over the past 5 or 6 weeks when they've had a really good run had a collective off night, and it happens. It's a bit of a reset. Brad Arthur talks about attitude, and you need to be on wherever you go, whoever you're playing. They couldn't hold the ball in what was about 100-degree heat. But let's face it, who cares? The story is St Helens. And not just St Helens winning against Leeds, which they do quite regularly at the TWS Stadium, but the manner
but not in grand finals, yeah.
And what was so impressive was that the first points that were scored was when St Helens took a penalty.
Oh, yes.
And a section of the crowd booed because it's not the St Helens way, where it's all about...
I was obviously watching the other game, and I said I put on my text to somebody, boo, in capital letters. Can't be taking two.
But it was something about that mentality that night that they were going to do whatever it took to make sure that collectively they got the win. And summed up in Harry Robertson's sensational tackle on Ryan Hall with help from Owen Dagnall. And I don't think... Clearly, Robertson getting over there is the instigation of the contact that meant he didn't score, but Dagnall didn't get enough credit for helping to roll Ryan Hall over.
Now, you watched the game, and I'm sure you were giving marks out of 10 to all the players because you'd have been forced to. Did Harry Robertson do much else apart from that tackle? Because he got man of the match on the telly.
Did he?
Yeah, which someone said that's all for one tackle. Well, which I'm not saying anything bad about Harry Robertson. I like him. He's great.
The great thing about Saints, and I was pleased for Paul Wellens, is that you could not question their commitment, which some of their fans have done in the run that they've had. And the bulk of the commitment was around young players.
Yeah.
And that's great. And that augurs well for moving forward. And although we will have to mention it, the exact opposite to what a team in Cheshire are doing.
Here's the thing. St Helens are the fifth. Yeah, go on.
So I really wanted to pay credit to Saints' commitment. They work so hard in furnace-like temperatures. The sort of temperature where the one thing you want to be offered is a hot pie. We're grateful for the hot pie, but I would have, ice cream would have gone down better.
They haven't down tools, have they?
No, and again, whether people like to hear it or not, there has to have been a period of transition. But if they're coming out the other side with the likes of Dagnall and Robertson and Whitby and Delaney, and they've got something there that they can build on. Clearly, Kyle Felt coming back into the team is important. Jack Wellesby obviously isn't playing at the moment, but he's going to be there for the foot. There is the core of a very good team there, and we were talking to a couple of St Helens fans as we were leaving, and they were saying that's the best we've played this year. Great. Well, you got to play Salford this week. That you go from being not expected to win to how many we're going to win by, but there'll be a big game coming up. It might be at Headingley in the return game in 3 weeks' time, which will be a really good test for both clubs as to how they respond to that result. But you'd look at that Saints team and go, get some more bodies back on the field, you'll be fine.
At this stage of the season, every club's got injuries, haven't they?
Except Leeds.
Except Leeds. Just because there's only seems to be one club that have got injuries in the competition at the moment.
No, everybody's
we're
got
moving
injuries.
on to in a minute.
But it's all to do as well with the quality of the youngsters and the ability. You look at Hull, who obviously there isn't a lot to say about them beating Salford, but Hull went through a year last year where they blooded some of their aspiring youngsters, some of whom this year are now clearly relishing that experience and what they went through. Some will have fallen by the wayside, but the ones that survive are the ones that you build your team around in years to come. So, the likes of Lewis Martin and Harvey Burnett, Davy Litton, Logan Moy, Jack Charles was back in the team. If you've got that core to build around, you're okay. Saints are okay. Hull are okay. Hull KR are going a different way about it. They've just signed a young player from Warrington, Tom White. Well, but this is leading into part of the issue at Warrington.
Exactly. We'll come on to them in a minute.
Don't want to say too much about Warrington because of what we said last week. It's not going to be that much different.
All the Warrington fans have stopped listening to the programme now. John says, I was at the London versus Halifax Super League and Reserve games on Saturday. Both really tight contests. Brilliant entertainment. The sport is thriving. We just need more eyes on it somehow.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%.
How we do that, I don't know. But,
I've never seen a wheelchair rugby league game, even the high-scoring ones in the World Cup that we saw, that wasn't anything other than huge admiration on the sideline as you watched it. There is so much going on that you just go, wow, these people are something else.
I love all this, just because I remember it now. People keep calling Salford brave and whatever. Can you imagine if you said to any of these wheelchair players, whether they're disabled or not, oh, you're so brave, they'd punch you. So patronising to Salford and their players. But they're lapping it up, aren't they? They're lapping it up. Also on Friday, Wakefield Trinity 16, Wigan 10. The buses are booked for Old Trafford. Matt Ellis, get a suit sorted. Another suit. Everything else.
Fantastic result. When you think
Kais Fatilli's back. He scored a try. He didn't score the other week. He's back now.
When you think they went so close against Leigh but couldn't quite get it over the line, and they really wanted to put a performance at home because they've been a breath of fresh air in Super League. They're building the right way. They've already signed Tyson Smoothie for next year's good signing. Their trajectory is only going to be upwards. They may make the six this year. It looks like it's going to be maybe a shootout between them and Hull. But whether they do or not, people want to talk about Wakefield. They want to watch Wakefield. They're excited about the brand of rugby that Wakefield play. They needed a statement home win. And that's it.
Would it be fair to call Wakefield's retentions and releases ruthless? Because Josh Griffin won the man of the match on Friday.
Yeah.
He's been playing really well all season, but he's not going to be there next year.
No,
they've made that decision.
Yeah, absolutely. And
that's what you've got to do.
Yeah, partly that is how a salary cap works. So, Josh, who's playing very well at the moment, is the other side of 30. So, there will be some young players that will want to reward. There'll be some new players that they want to bring in. There'll be a young player, maybe like a Jack Croft, who will need maybe a starting berth in the second row next year on a more regular basis. So, no, I think they know how to manage it. So one thing Darryl does know is he can manage a salary cap.
Yeah. Just couldn't manage Warrington. But no Mike McMeekin either. When I saw the team, I thought, oh no, it's not Mike. He's like been the best player at Wakefield this season.
You have to have that ability to play a certain way, whoever is in your team. And clearly they do. Jake Truman coming back's been really good over the last couple of weeks. I'm glad to see him obviously making a big impact.
It's almost worth, when you've got a player of that ability who can do things that other players can't, that even if he can't play every game, it's worth the risk of having him because he can then
Nigel
turn
Wright,
other games.
Tony Myler. It's but hopefully he will play more games now for the remainder of the season that he misses, and he's a vital cog.
And then when he's injured, Matt Jarrett moves there and Josh Rowe plays there, and then it's like a plan for everything.
Well, funny that, isn't it? And whereas Wigan, very little publicity that they're not playing desperately well at the moment. Bevan French was back. And they couldn't find a way to win. They had a little dip in the middle of last season, even though they were going for all the trophies, and they had Field and French injured in that middle part of last season. But and the wheels clearly aren't off. But that would be a more disappointing result than perhaps has been made.
Can't be blamed on the width of the pitch either at Wakefield.
No, and Wakefield have got a good record at home to Wigan.
Although they didn't have a good. Remember when Wakefield couldn't win a game at home at the start of the season? I was it's a hoodoo. There's a curse on Bellevue or something, and now they've beaten Wigan. No one mentions that anymore. So.
I do think because Matty Pete is so magnanimous every time his team gets defeated.
He's a class act. He's class
but he, it does deflect a little bit from the actual result.
Andrew says, because I've stolen his line, think Wigan were complaining about the pitch being too big after their previous game. So Christian Wade might play this week because Liam Marshall's
scored 2 tries.
Yeah, and it's at Castleford where he made his debut in the reserves, which doesn't count. So we'll see if he plays on Saturday on the iPlayer. Oh, how exciting!
Yeah, it's Saturday night, isn't it? 8 o'clock.
Yeah, because again the scheduling is all to cock.
It's a very strange time.
Yeah,
gives you the chance to watch the other games on Saturday afternoon,
which both kick off at 5:30.
Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah, well done.
Choose your game.
Well done, everyone. I'm at work, so I'll be watching none of them. Right, so that was Friday. Well done, Wakefield.
It's a brilliant result. It really is a brilliant. And I say we could focus on our Wigan off the boil. Well, I'm not interested. That was a fantastic result for Wakefield.
Giant for England. Nearly had his head taken off as well, and somehow managed to not fail a HIA or anything. And they didn't take their last.
Would you think of Jowett for England?
Well, I was going to go to the Wakefield press conference and ask him, but then I thought someone else will ask him, so I can't be bothered because I can't then use the clips. So.
Do you think?
Because I'm like.
But do you think he's in contention if, for example, Wellesby isn't fit?
I don't know.
You see a lot of him. Would he
be
able to step
I've always been a fan. Well, who in our competition is good enough to play against and beat Australia?
AJ Brimson.
AJ Brimson.
Because he can play fullback.
So there you go. But
I'm just
do
saying,
any of our other fullbacks?
No, I'm just saying.
Would
you have Max in the squad?
I'd have him in the squad.
Yeah. Good.
Because he's from my village and everything.
Good. Well, because you can imagine Johnson will be in the squad, McMeekin will be in the squad. If Max is in the squad as well, that's another indication that Wakefield are doing it right.
So, any of our listeners and viewers, do you get excited about the team of the week thing? So clubs get excited. Oh, we've had 3 players in the team of the week.
How is it decided?
I don't know.
Who decides it?
Is it the Shanwy Kamal who's doing the Man of Steel award?
Who knows?
How's the Woman of Steel been done? Wheel of Steel. All these steels. Where were they? What's doing
Tommy Steele.
Tommy Steele. No one asked me for any points on Saturday.
And you were there?
I was there.
How many other journalists were there?
There's me. Not even a journalist. The Super League scheduling is the dumbest thing I have seen since Eric Honecker told Gorbachev that the wall will stand forever. Carson there with politics. we could rebuild the Berlin Wall on the table. Mikhail Gorbachev, crazy name, crazy guy. Saturday. Warrington 16, Huddersfield 24. Welcome to Warrington in crisis. But first, Huddersfield Giants, after the disappointment of last week, losing on the buzzer against Wigan, they come back, put in this performance. I was concerned at the end when Warrington had their bit of a comeback, and they're going to fall short again, but no. Huddersfield, congratulations to them and their second win of the season.
Again, I think the issue would be we could spend the next 10 minutes talking about Warrington and what's wrong there, and we've done it.
Yeah.
And it hasn't changed. And it was sadly exposed again on Saturday. But let's look at Huddersfield. I know that Luke Robinson is saying this could be a turning point result. In many respects, it could. Really interesting that you'd think when they lost Adam Clune that there'd be a lack of direction, or a further lack of direction, because he's missed so much of the season this year, but when he's played they've looked better.
Yeah.
But hats off to Matt Frawley, who comes in on loan and really does direct the team around. Their overseas players made a really big impact. Tuilola here, Tane Milne. It's a really good performance, and again, I only managed to listen to it on the radio. Not only because I'd prefer listening to it on the radio if the commentary is really, really good. I don't think Huddersfield were ever in any danger of losing that game.
The only thing that was in the back of your mind is just Wigan coming back last week, but Warrington aren't Wigan.
No,
they're not Wigan. No. But Warrington have got all these injuries. All their players are injured. Yeah, so there's excuse number one.
Their half-back partnership isn't George Williams and Mark Sneyd, who are two of the best in the business.
No. Oh, no, it is, isn't it? Yeah. So Huddersfield, despite having Matt Frawley come back, that was his first game, wasn't it? Yeah. So completely new. Yeah. But not no.
We know how deep Warrington's issues run. We discussed it enough last week. I don't want to add salt into an open wound.
However,
let Warrington fans tell us what they think. It doesn't matter what we think, but where do they go from here? That's the question.
So a few weeks ago, the coach of St Helens, and in fact, even on Friday, I can't remember where the headline was. It might have been on the BBC website. The result takes the pressure off Paul Wellens. Right, St Helens are 5th in the table. Warrington are 8th in the table. They're below newly promoted Wakefield, still newly promoted until the end of the year. Hull, who were dreadful last year, and no one's saying there's pressure on. Why is there no pressure on Sam Burgess?
There is. I think there is.
But there isn't. It's not been written about by people.
I'd be very surprised if a certain section of the Warrington fans are not disillusioned, and if I was the senior management at Warrington, I would be concerned about where the club is in a year and 18 months' time, because I don't think Sam's going to be there. So what do you do?
You need to copy Wigan, so the fans did that by leaving early on Saturday. But again, you get rid of the coach, but who does the recruitment?
It's the easy thing, isn't it? It's the easy thing.
It's easy to say, oh, they did that tweet about ice creams or whatever, but that's the general malaise around Warrington. And they've got really rich, successful people who own them, aren't they?
Yeah,
Simon Brand's got it's like a really successful.
It's almost promoter. As if there is a blinkered approach to everything around winning the men's grand final.
Someone else said that to me today as well. It wouldn't have, if they'd have won at Wembley, it wouldn't have mattered because
it would have mattered.
But that's the monkey on the.
We're 12 rounds out from the end of the season. They're 5 points adrift from the playoffs. I know that some of their fixtures that they've got to come are the likes of Salford, Catalan. They're going to improve. So they're not givens at this stage of the season the way Warrington are playing. I don't think they can win enough games to make the top 6. At what point do you say what's happening next year and the year after and the year after that?
So you're right. You were talking about Wigan earlier and how Hull can't have to lose twice for Wigan to, if they go perfect. And it's the same for Warrington above Wakefield and Hull.
Yeah.
They've got 2 teams they've got to finish above at the minute. And even then, they're only, you can add St Helens in there as well.
not
Tom
great.
says...
I'm happy to leave it to the floor and Warrington fans. Cause...
most of the Wire fans make any excuse that isn't our team. I'm not happy with the club as a whole. It's getting worse. Recruitment has been crap for years.
The other thing about that...
Well, I sent Dan Russell off to Salford, so,
I'm not... we don't want to talk about Warrington, he said. Talking more about... I think the loss of Tom Whitehead is indicative...
It's fascinating, isn't it?
...of what's wrong at Warrington. Now, I don't know how good a player Tom Whitehead is, but I do know that clearly he's been included in the first team squad. They must have thought they had enough about him that, again, we talk about clubs that have juniors that you can build teams around. He's clearly got enough potential for Hull KR to be interested in him. On the back of the investment into somebody like Matty Nicholson, who they prized away from Wigan, he then went to Canberra. It's almost as if Warrington is a stopping station at the moment for
players and
talent.
coaches.
And you just think that if you want to be a big club, that can't be right. What is going wrong if Tom Whitehead is being snapped up by Hull KR? And let's be honest, the likelihood is he's not going to be a first choice player at Hull KR. Erib Doro, who everybody's saying, when he's played for Hull KR, it might have the odd mistake in him, but goodness me, he can make an impact off the bench. He was at Warrington. They let him go to Bradford. I mean, I'm only using it as an example. I'm sure there'll be others. But when you're young talent that goes on to play for a club that's higher up in the league, there's something not quite right.
It's a puzzle. And this is to steal something from the What Would Brian Bevan Say podcast, because I was listening to it on the way in. You remember how everyone at Sky got very excited about that lad who made his debut for about 5 minutes a couple of weeks ago? Where's he? What's happened to him?
He went on loan for the year because he wasn't ready to be playing in the Warrington first team. He'd been playing in the Leeds reserves, having come from Rugby Union. And I wish him well, and I hope he gets a career out of Rugby League. But it was just a bizarre signing.
It was the typical hype of let's overhype this kid who's playing.
But I'm not sure he was ready to be playing first team rugby.
2 overseas signings left, both championship level. We let our youngsters go. We signed players that Wigan and now Hull KR wouldn't be interested in. It's because Hull KR are now a bigger club. They're done.
They're not done. They just need to make some serious decisions about what they want to be in the next 18 months, 2 years.
Speaking of, Catalan Dragons 12, Leigh Leopards 26. What we definitely know now for sure is that the players were not playing for Steve McNamara. They're just not very good. Is that fair?
No.
Well, it's not fair to call them not very good.
No, I think this was a very improved performance. And there was you can't say there's one crucial incident in a game that lasts 80 minutes, but Catalan had battled back to 12-all and was just starting to get on top in the game, and it was a committed performance, and Cesar Rouge was fantastic, and he epitomised this different spirit that was in the Dragons team that we've seen over the previous 4 weeks. And Tommy Makinson had a penalty from just about in front of the posts to make it 14-12, and Leigh may well have gone on and won it, but at that point you got the impression that if Catalan had actually taken the lead, there was even a little bit more for their efforts in terms of value, and the ball hit the post and Leigh regathered it and Catalan's chance effectively was gone. When Leigh then kicked a penalty that hit a post, it was Leigh that got the ball back and scored from it, and there wasn't much between the teams. I think the 6 agains were pretty much heavily in favour of Leigh. They deserve to win. They're a really good team. They're so hard to break down, and there's something about David Armstrong that he's your X Factor player, and when they needed a play, he was the one that produced it, and it won the game. Catalan were better with Sam there, not because Sam did anything that was going to win the game, but they were disciplined, they were organised, they were kicking better, they were playing in the right part of the field better. They gave away a couple of penalties that allowed Leigh to get out of their own in-goal area. It wasn't a bad Catalan display. Interesting game for them this week because again they're at home and it's to Huddersfield.
Does Sam Tompkins need to play in a different position?
I don't think
because because obviously he was shown up by Armstrong, but Armstrong's the fastest man in Super League.
And the problem is the only other position that Sam could play would be in the halves, and I think he would acknowledge that because of his knee injuries, he's just not quick enough to play in the halves. They're still not getting full value out of Luke Keary, but Cesar Rouget was a revelation. Alrix da Costa back at hooker gave them energy and drive, and they just looked a more of a Catalan type team, and their fans did stay and cheer them on, and that's what you want.
So if the fans are, the fans are obviously happier than the Warrington fans.
What they need is a win against Huddersfield, which again will from the base of what we've seen this week is definitely not a gimme, but they do need to get their fans back on side by either winning that game or running it as close as they can.
I mean, with the way things are on Saturday evening, Catalans could be level on points with Warrington. They probably won't go above them on points difference because it's a bit of a difference, minus 95 to minus 170. But they could be level on points with them. Well done, Leigh. They, as you say, they're again, quite good. They're third in the table.
They've got players who, again, you talk about whatever the system is, knowing their role in that system. Owen Trout, you can see why Sean Wayne is looking at him. Really, really good. Edwin Apape is a nightmare. Not every minute of every game. I think some clubs have worked out that you just don't give him room. But there are times in the game that you cannot stop him doing what he does. And they've got a very settled back division at the moment, 3/4 division, which is why Josh Charnley can't get in. But they're all performing. And they're all, deserving of their starting place. I'm not saying he isn't. His track record is excellent. But Gareth O'Brien back for Leigh was huge. Ben McNamara drops to the bench, comes on as replacement hooker. But they all know exactly what Adrian Lamb wants from them. And Tuiti Varke, I think, is banned for Friday night. But it won't matter because they've got such a solid squad.
I assume Ben McNamara probably enjoyed the victory.
I wonder if he said anything as he came off the pitch.
To the coach of the Catalan Dragons.
To an official, any official. Well, I wonder if he left that to his chairman.
Well, speaking of in a minute.
Do we have to?
I think we just got to mention it. So Leigh are third. They go to Leeds on Friday.
Which is a battle for top four, which is interesting.
I think clubs in... I mean, we all assume that when the PNG, whatever they're going to be called, come into Super League,
the name you cannot mention,
into Super League, into the NRL, that Adrian Lamb will be their coach. That's the assumption. Whether he's the head coach or assistant coach or whatever.
You'd like to think he might be involved.
Because but if you were a team in Super League at the minute thinking, well, we could do it with a coach who's good in Super League and could probably do steady things up. He's won trophies at Wigan and Leigh. You'd be thinking, I'd take Adrian Lamb, that fellow who looked very unhappy on the telly. On
I would also say that if you wanted young, aspiring PNG players as part of your squad, that's someone you'd look up to.
So Castleford should have gone with all their PNG players at the start of the season. There's rules and everything. You're not supposed to go on the pitch after a game. You know that because you can get thrown out. You can get banned forever. So I'm waiting for the RFL to ban the drummer from Leigh, who certainly should have been on the pitch.
I think was dragged over by.
No, well, but it's not a good look, is it? Really, generally, because they can't put. Imagine you watch Sky Sports News do their thing. Well, here's Warrington losing to Huddersfield, and here's Luke Robertson looking happy, going, "Yeah." By the way, Sam Burgess, he just needs to get somebody else to do the post-match interviews because if he can't be asked, just don't bother.
And he doesn't say anything.
Just don't bother, Sam. Just don't bother.
I don't know. All I would say is read the report in Land Pendant by the great Bruno.
The great Bruno. Yeah.
I'm not. I could try his surname, but I don't want
got the newspaper. That's enough.
When you click on Land Pendant by Bruno,
you'll see his face. You'll recognise him.
It says translate.
Yeah, press that button.
So although it's in French, it says translate. Translate. We don't need to say anything. No. Oriente, I think, but I don't know how he pronounces it. I'm probably doing him a disservice.
Yeah. Like I say, the people who walk behind people on the news doing that. That's what it is.
The shame is, it was obvious that Adrian Lamb realised what was happening. And
the shadows, no one's talking.
But even Adrian Lamb looked pissed off.
Yeah. I hope he's not there on Friday. I have to hide from him. I wear disguise like I'm Jeremy Beadle.
I don't think he's the slightest bit interested in what we've got to say.
If I was John Wilkin or something. Salford Red Devils 6, Hull FC 38. Well done, Hull. Salford, they're so brave, aren't they? They're so brave. I feel like this should be, for people who watch daytime TV, which is me, in the commercial breaks, it's all adverts for funerals.
It is.
Direct cremations and charities. Usually donkeys, which is nothing to do with Peter.
Hear the bear squeal.
Yeah. Nothing to do with Peter nor Warrington. But I'm half expecting Paul Rowley to pitch up, looking sad into the camera and saying, just £5 a month.
We're doing the best we can.
£5 a month could pay for
I think on
Ryan Braley's kicking team.
There's two things here. One is when a quarter of Salford's team doesn't turn up until the training session before the game. I don't think we can expect any more. I don't think we can lay any of the blame at the door of the coaching staff or the supporters. We say that every week. I think watching the highlights back of the Hull tries, particularly in the second half, every one of them seemed to come either from close in or from a Salford mistake. And you know when you don't have your players together for long, you're not going to get that commitment on the line to keep a team out. So yeah, well done Hull. It was a professional performance. Can't ask for any more. You got the 2 points. You'll move back into the top 6.
Perfect for for the performance the week before against Castleford.
Yeah.
Perfect for them. And they travel to Warrington on Saturday evening, which will be
a big game actually. If Warrington lose that, they're definitely not making the 6. I doubt whether they are anyway. But it's almost, if you were to chart what Warrington need to do to even have a chance of keeping their season alive, then if they lose this game, that's it.
Well, that's sad, isn't it, for Warrington fans? Tom's mentioned this, Thomas, I should say. The Sam Powell meters thing. Is that an actual stat, or is the stat broken? Because sometimes the stats are not. And we don't know what he's been told. He might have been told by Sam Burgess just to pass the ball all the time.
What can you read into that? Probably as much as you want to. If you want to use it as a stick to beat Warrington with, that's fine. I actually think that certainly at Wembley, Sam Powell was really important to Warrington. He is a guy who is not going to accept anything other than ultra professionalism from those around him and from himself. So I don't know what we're supposed to say about that stat. Some I don't know. Some hookers are running hookers and some are not. I mean, Danny Houghton didn't used to have great running meters, but it didn't stop him making 60 tackles every week. It depends what style you want to play.
Yeah. But it makes nice headlines, doesn't it? Because it's rubbish. Look, he's made no meters.
Not sure.
Context. Friday, Hull Kingston Rovers versus Wakefield Trinity. A repeat of the 1967 Championship final or 68. One of those. Probably some Yorkshire Cup finals. Leeds versus Leigh.
That would be a great game because again,
that's the main Sky game on Friday.
If we're certain about Brad Arthur's impact and what that means, and the fact that clearly he would have been disappointed that his mantra of you build a game and then you win it late on, they didn't do that.
No.
So how they hit back, particularly at home where they've had some good results, only just got beat by Hull KR, managed to beat Wigan, beat Hull at the last minute, it's beat Wakefield late on. I think that's going to be a really, really good game, and whoever wins that will cement themselves as a top 4 team.
Get there early, you can watch the women as well.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
On Saturday, get them in the right order, Warrington Hull and Catalans Huddersfield both at 5:30, which we've been talking about in the reviews of those 2 games, and Castleford versus Wigan, which Wigan, having not had the best of weeks, you'd fancy they will go there and score a few points, unfortunately, for Castleford. And maybe it is the perfect time to give Christian Wade his debut because
I think we're going to know more about Castleford. They've just played at home. They've just been heavily beaten by a top team. the crowd has vented their disappointment by leaving early. Okay, you get the opportunity to play the other top team. Is it, are we going to see a different Castleford?
This fixture list. And then on Sunday, St Helens versus Salford, and a repeat of that famous game from the first round of the.
And one that was played 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, and that will go exactly as you think it will go, unless Salford. This is the problem this week. It's the end of the month.
They've got a winding up order.
It's the end of the month.
Is it 3 days' time?
HMRC plus the wage bill. Anyone got any bridging loans?
Supposedly a bridging loan, but we shall see. It's just a saga that the game could do without. But also, mainly, Salford could do without.
I can understand if the answer to this question is no. Did you listen to Radio Manchester last week? To their Salford Red Devils Crisis Special?
Oh, no.
No, I know you wouldn't have done. There's some very depressed Salford fans on there. And John Davidson, which is bad enough, isn't it? Just to make them worse.
The two together.
I think they handed out the number for the Samaritans halfway through. Oh, I shouldn't joke about that, but you know what I mean. That's it, isn't it? That is this week.
Well, the only thing I don't know is what record we're going to.
Oh, yeah.
For Mr. Maskell.
Have we done the right time this week? So we're supposed to do an hour, aren't we?
Are we?
I don't know. We've gone over again anyway. But
well, that's because we had nothing to talk about.
No, there was nothing has happened this week. Penrith won again, didn't they?
In the top 8.
Yeah, so they're going to win. The drive for 5 is on. But as we know with St Helens, both men and women, it doesn't happen. Thanks for watching. We're back next Monday. Will we have a guest? Who knows?
We might do.
We might do.
We ask people.
Yeah, there might be another one later this week if the person I've sent a message to replies. I think I'm being ghosted. I think that's what the young people say. I hope, by the way, your adverts on YouTube are not the same ones I get for wedding bands. I don't want to book a wedding band. I'm not getting married. Believe me. So enjoy the week. We'll catch you back here next week. If you're listening in Sierra Leone, if you're our listener there, hello. I looked for their national language. It's English.
No wonder
it's one of ours.
Who do we know that ever played rugby league that was heritage Sierra Leone?
There must be someone
eligible to play for.
Yeah, there must be someone. And we're the #1 rugby podcast in Turkey again. So yeah, all of the rugby. So that Lions tour has not made an impact yet, and probably won't. What's Swinton are on tour? I fancy Swinton could probably beat the Wallabies at Rugby Union, despite the fact they play rugby league. If you disagree, all our Australian listening to rugbyleague.com for Steve's music and stuff. That I need to finish. Right. Anyway, gone. We'll see you next Monday. Enjoy the week. If you're at Headingley, we might see you there, and if not, we'll see you next Monday. Thanks for watching and listening and sending all your messages in.
And if you're in Hull,
on Wednesday,
Tony Collins at the History Centre, 6:30.
And when's the Sheffield thing?
Thursday, I think also 6:30.
Wow, a busy week of